So open up your heart to God. That's the first step. Open up your heart to God. The second step is that you must hear the call of God, the Great Spirit. You must hear the call of God because, that God is always calling out to us. He's always reaching out to us. He's always inviting us and calling us to come. You have to hear that. Deep calls to the deep, and the deep hear it. Human beings are more or less like the three monkeys of Japan. So sometimes we don't want to hear. Monkey hear nothing. Monkey see nothing. Monkey say nothing. Monkey feels nothing. Right? But we're not monkeys. We're human beings. And we need to hear the call of God. We have to hear the call of God. There's a scripture here that says, "Listen, you foolish and senseless people, which have eyes that do not see and ears that do not hear. Whoever has ears, let him hear what the Spirit is saying to the churches." So basically, you have to come to a place where you learn to hear. You listen to God. You hear what He has to say. And then you respond. Are you willing to listen to what God is saying? And that's why Scripture would say here, whoever has ears to hear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying to the churches. What is the Spirit of God saying to you today? What is God saying to you today? Do you have the ability to hear Him? Do you have the sensitivity? Are you open enough to hear God? These are important questions that you got to answer. All right? You got to answer this question. And only you can answer it. And how exactly do you hear the call of God? All right? So that's another question. First of all, you got to open up your heart to God. And secondly, you got to be open to hear what God is saying, right? And now, how do you hear it? How exactly do you hear the call of God and the Great Spirit? Well, you can hear it in nature. You can hear it in Scripture. You can even hear it in your culture. There's a lot of things in your culture that communicates God, nature and culture and Scripture. Now, there's a lot of things in culture that, God has nothing to do with it. In Africa, sometimes I look at it, in human culture, there's exploitation, there's oppression, there's deprivation. That's not God. But sometimes you see compassion, you see humility, you see kindness, and you see community. That's God. So you can see God in culture. You can see it in Scripture. You can also see it in nature. You can hear it from the words of the saints and the sages and the saviors. You can hear that. You can hear it, most of all, deep within your heart. Right? When your heart pricks you, your conscience speaks to you. That's God. That's God. You got to listen to your heart as well. You got to listen to your conscience. I know there is this nonsense that tells you that you shouldn't go with your heart. You should only go with your head. That's nonsensical. If God doesn't want you to listen to your heart, why did He give you a heart? Maybe He should have put a stone in there. He could have. He could have put a rock, or maybe, a piece of metal in your heart. An aluminum in your heart. But that's not what He did. He gave you a heart to feel. So you can listen to your heart. And you can respond to your heart. That's what God did. So don't listen to those who tell you not to listen to your heart. They're misguided. You can't listen to them. Listen to your heart. Use your head. Of course, God gave you the head also. Use your head. Use your head to do your calculation. Use your head to do your reasoning. But use your heart as well to feel your emotions and to feel your feelings. That is right and legitimate. God gave that to you for a reason. You got to use that as well. All right? And then, of course, You must respond to the call of God. It is one thing to hear what God is saying, but it is quite another to respond, right? So this is exactly what the scripture is saying about people who go to church and they go to religious places of worship and they're always hearing, but they never come into the knowledge of the truth. And they hear with their ears and they maybe mouth out the words that they hear, but they never heed what they hear. They never respond to it, right? But you must learn to respond to the call of God. What's God calling you to do? What's He calling you to do? I know exactly what God is calling me to do. It's not always easy when you decide you're going to step out and do what God is calling you to do. There is trials along the way. There is pain and suffering. And there is great sacrifice. There is misery untold. But if God has called you to that path, then you got to pursue it. You see? You got to go do what God is calling you to do. You have to do it. If you do not do what God is calling you to do, what are you going to do? Without what God is calling you to do, what are you going to do? You're going to go chase money? Well, that would be meaningless. You're going to go chase earthly accumulation? That would be meaningless as well. The only meaning is found in the call of God. If God has called you to be a mom, then be a good mom. If He's called you to be a teacher, be a good teacher. Don't go and become a businessman if God hasn't called you to do that. If He's called you to be a businessman, go do that. Be an ethical businessman. The world needs ethical businessmen. If He's called you to be a leader, then go try and be a leader. He's called you to join politics. Do that. But by all means, be a good politician. Speak the truth. Live right. Do right. And work for the right kind of outcomes for people who elect you into office. So respond to the call of God. Because God is calling us to do different things. Right? Now, I have gone out and I've tried to do what God has called me to do. I haven't always done it perfectly, but I keep trying. That's all we can do. Sometimes I miss the mark. And thank God He doesn't reject us just because we miss the mark. His forgiveness is available. His grace is available. His mercy is available. And that's what it's all about. Go do what God is calling you to do. Don't try to do what God is calling me to do. Go do what He's calling you to do. Whatever He's calling you to do, go do that. And you're going to find a lot of meaning in that. And so, how do you actualize spiritual life? As I point out, first, you must open up your heart. Second, you must hear the call of God. And third, you must respond to that call. You must respond to that call. So I can go on and proclaim more about these things, but I think that I should probably pause here for a little bit and maybe take it up from here next time. And I want to ask you, please, right? So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, it is Ofuasia Media. Ofuasia Media. Jofuasia. J for Jones, Ofuasia, which is my last name, Ofuasia Media. And please go on and subscribe and support us like that. We have a great content over there, and I'd like you to be a part of that. So like, share, subscribe. And if you have questions for me, you'd like me to wrestle with, I'd like to do that. Absolutely. Send that in to me. I'd like to do that. And Vono, give my regards to all the friends in Canada and the rest of you. I appreciate you. One of the risks about calling out people here is that you inevitably are going to miss somebody, and that's really not my intention. But I just wanted to say that I appreciate every one of you. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, be strong and keep the faith. Namaste.